Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Brisden. My name is Whitney, and today we have my January wrap-up. So this will be my first time actually using a reading journal, and so I'm going to kind of go off this for the wrap-up. I'm trying to keep better track of stats this year and everything like that. And I've actually been really enjoying. I already have February all set up, ready to go, and I've really been enjoying this. So we're going to go off this. I'll put a picture, I'll kind of scoot over a little bit here, and I'll put a picture of the pages I'm talking about up here so you can kind of follow along as well. First, I'm going to go through the prompts and such I had from my game and which books I chose for those prompts. And I started off with 13 prompts. I had 14 books that fulfilled the prompts. And I ended up kind of going a little bit off of that. I have some rollovers from December. I added on some extra books and such. So I ended up with a total of 28 books, which clearly I did not read all of those. But we'll get into all that. So let's go ahead and get started with the prompts. And like I said, I'll insert pictures of what my journal kind of looks like. I didn't take a picture of this first page. This is just the January with the thing. I did switch it up a little bit for February, which I'll give you a little sneak peek here, just because I don't like it cutting across the page like that. So for January, I just did it, or for February, I did it sideways. So that's kind of it's a process. I'm kind of learning what kind of works for me and what doesn't. And so yeah, I'm excited for that change. But for our game, first we had to choose a character, and we got Rabbit, which Rabbit is a free choice. So for this, I went with Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So there was that one. And then we pulled a green, which is a fantasy, and the prompt we pulled was a Heffalump, and for that it's childhood fears. I went with Cress by Marissa Meyer, and so that was the book I pulled for that. Then we got a black, which means you move forward 3 spots, so we moved forward to a green, which is again fantasy, and for this one you have to pull 2 prompts if I land on a black. If I can make a book fit for both prompts, I can choose just one book. If I can't make one book fit for both prompts, I have to choose 2. But luckily for me, I was able to. So the prompts we pulled was Tarzan, which was Jungle Explorers, and we also got Bookworm, which was Water Element. So for this, I pulled or chose City of the Beast by Isabel Allende. And this definitely worked for both prompts. You have them exploring kind of the jungle, looking for this beast, and the river played a big part in that. And so that definitely fits for that. So I only had to choose one book. Then we got Purple, which is a free genre, and I got Lady and the Tramp, which was a dog pick. I don't remember what I had pitted against this one. I did not write that down in my journal. But the dog, I had Nidra choose, and she chose Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. I actually just finished this morning as I'm filming this, which is the first day in February, but it counts because I was mostly done with it. I just had like 75 pages or something. So anyway, just finished that. Then we got another green, again that's fantasy, and we got the Fox and the Hound. So we got a close human-animal bond. And for that, I went with Sabriel by Garth. Then we got a yellow, which is historical. And for that, we got Bookworm, so it needed to be a historical with a fire element. I chose The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. And the reason I did was because I was thinking war, bombs equal fire. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but at one point, there's TNT that they're kind of smuggling, and there's also a fire in a building. So I was glad it actually did fulfill the prompt on that one. Then let's see, we got another green, so another fantasy, and this is Beauty and the Beast. So Stockholm Syndrome or Enemies to Lovers. I went with the Enemies to Lovers, and I went with The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy by Megan Bannen. Then we got another purple, so free choice of genre, but we got Hercules, which was godlike strength. And so I went with Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan for that one. Then we got another purple, which is Aurora, so free genre, but we got Aurora, which was a dream state or coma. And for this one, I wasn't sure if there was going to be something like that in this specific book, but in the first book in the series, there was, so that's why I chose it. For as long as a book in the series fits that, I can continue on with the series. So I chose 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater, and there was actually a moment where it was kind of based on Sleeping Beauty. So there was a moment where they were sleeping and they had to kind of be revived. So this actually worked perfectly for that as well. Then we landed on green, which we couldn't move forward, so that didn't count. And we pulled again, and got red, which is romance. And we got Lady and the Tramp, which is animal main, so a romance with animal main characters. And I chose The Sight by David Clement Davies. Even though this isn't technically a romance, it follows this wolf family, and I figured based on what I had on my shelf, that's the closest I was gonna get. I haven't actually read this one yet, so I don't know how well it fulfills the prompt, but I'm still gonna go with it. And then we landed on purple, couldn't move, pulled a yellow, couldn't move, pulled a blue, which is sci-fi, and we got another Hercules, which was Zero to Hero. And so for this, I chose Winter by Marissa Meyer, and my whole thought process was you kind of have Cinder in the first one, so based on the series, which kind of continues throughout, she's kind of a zero, and I'm assuming, she's going to end up being the hero of the story. So we went with that. Then we got another blue, so another sci-fi, and this was Big Bad Wolf, and we needed a thriller. So I went with Invictus by Ryan Groden. And so that was my choice for that. And then we had 3 unusable discs, and so whatever disc we weren't able to move, we take that number, and the book I choose has to deal with that number in some way. So I did put 2 books on for this one. I chose Dance of the Gods and Valley of Silence by Nora Roberts, which these were actually rollovers all the way from back in October. I rolled them over to November, wasn't able to get them. Kind of skipped December because I knew I wanted to be able to get to them, and then rolled them into January. And so yeah, I chose these because they're part of a trilogy. So especially the last one works because it's the 3rd book in the trilogy. So that goes with that. But those were rollovers. Then that was it for the game prompts. So not too bad. Like I said, 14 books, 13 prompts, but I had 14 books with the 2 from the Circle trilogy. I also had my genre-a-thon book, which is my readathon. That's all year long, and it's basically just each month I'm focusing on different genres, trying to kind of expand my horizons a little bit. So for January, it was New Year, New You, to read either a self-help type book or a book that teaches you something new. I went with more self-help type, and I read Divergent Mind by Janera Nierenberg. So we got that one. And then we have all our rollovers. Like I said, these 2 were rollovers, but I was able to work them into the TBR. Then as far as other rollovers, this is one I've been wanting to read for a long time. And it's Lessons from Lucy by Dave Barry. So we rolled that one over. This is another one I've been just wanting to read. It wasn't ever officially part of a TBR. I just really been wanting to read it. And that's There by Tommy Orange. Then we had some rollovers from December that are part of my ABC Author Challenge that I was really hoping to complete in December. I wasn't able to do that. I finished A Case of Two Cities by Cho Xiaolong. I probably messed up that name. I keep looking up how to pronounce it and still can't get it right. So I did finish this one. There was only like 113 pages left out of 307, but I did get this one finished. Then we also had the last 2 for my ABC Author Challenge that I rolled over. So we had Eve by W.M. Paul Young, and we also had Who is the River by Paul Zallis. And then we had Little Women, which I started in December, and I only read 100 pages of this. This is by Louisa May Alcott, and I did not continue on with it at all in January, unfortunately, but we'll get into that more. And we also had another book that I started in December, which was Winners by Danielle Steele. And then another rollover that I was planning on trying to read in December and just wasn't able to get to, again, kind of an extra, but I knew I really, really wanted to read it, was My Sergei by Katerina Gordieva with E.M. Swift. And then we had 3 extras. So in December, I buddy read the first book of the series with B over from at Mama Needs to Read Romance. I can't talk today. And so we wanted to continue the series, continue to buddy read it. So I added on Rain Shadow Road by Lisa Kleypas. This is the second book in the Friday Harbor series. So I read that. And then I added on Barbarian Alien by Ruby Dixon. And I added on a book that I hauled. It was like in the last haul of the year. And it's The End of the World, My Love by Alla Gorbanova, translated by Elena Alter. So there is that as well. So I added on 3 books already onto a massive TBR, which was crazy. I also listened to Babel by R.F. Kuang, which was 21 hours, 46 minutes. And then my husband and I are reading together The Choice by Nora Roberts. And we did start that one. We've only read like 36 pages, so we haven't finished it at all. So now I'm gonna go through which ones I did not read, and then we'll go into the ones that I did read based on star rating. So the ones that I did not read, there's a lot of them. Let me kind of break this down. So first off, I did try to finish Winners by Danielle Steele. I was planning on finishing this one, and I had read about 70-ish pages. Let's see if I wrote it down here. 74 pages in December, and that's all I got done. I tried to continue on, and it just wasn't for me. So I read like another 10 pages, and I was just like, you know what? This book's not for me. I don't understand because, like, I've read a couple of her historical fictions, and I really, really, really enjoyed those. And then I tried to read this one, and like the writing just didn't seem to flow very well. It is kind of an emotional type book, and I normally enjoy those, but I think with just the writing and such, it just was kind of choppy and it didn't flow very well. So I decided to DNF this, so I'm not going to continue this. I'm going to go ahead and unhaul it. My grandma gave me, like, I think there's just short, like, 20 books of Danielle Steele's entire collection. So I am trying to work my way through them, but I'm not going to force myself to read them if I'm not enjoying it. So this is one I did not enjoy, so I'm going to go ahead and I did DNF it. I'm going to go ahead and unhaul it. So there is that one. And then I already mentioned I did not continue on with Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This one is going to roll over into February, though, because I do still want to continue it. And so, like I said, I read about 100 pages, so I still have 325 pages left to go. But I am enjoying this, so I do want to continue it. So this is going to roll over into February. Then we have Who is the River by Paul Zallis. This one I'm not going to roll over into February just because my February TBR is already massive, and I'm participating in a few things. I am going to make a little bit of a change to my game come March. I'm going to try to use a dice instead of pulling the disc to see if I can get a little bit smaller TBR. So I want to finish this one and Eve both in March, but neither one of these is going to be rolled over to February at all because I don't have the time for these right now, and I'm not as interested in them. I do still want to read them, but I'm gonna push them off until March, so they're not being rolled over right now. I did finish A Case of Two Cities, so we'll talk about that in a second. I did not get to There Again. This is, again, just an extra one. I keep putting it on because I'm hoping I'll have time to get to it, but it's never been officially part of my TBR. So this one I'm not going to roll over either. Again, if I can get it on a TBR soon, I will. But it's just I keep trying to add it and it's just not happening. So I'm just going to hold off on that one for now. So it's not rolling over. And Lessons from Lucy, again, I have a plan for this. So I'm hoping I can get this on my March TBR. If I doing the dice works and my game, and my TBR is a little bit smaller, I will do this one. It's just I have a project in mind, so I need time to not only read it but do the project as well. And yeah, I keep trying to fit it in there. And it's not very long, but yeah, this one's not going to get rolled over to February. Like I said, my February TBR is already way too large. So there's that. I did not read Invictus at all, so this one is getting rolled over into um, February. Sorry, I forgot what month we were on. So I am going to roll over that one. I did not get to Winter either. This one I'm not going to roll over. This is like 800 and something pages. Way too big of a TBR to try to fit this one in, and I figure I just want to continue on with the series, so I do plan on rolling over Cress, but this one's going to hold off, and I can hopefully get it on to a TBR in the future, so that one's not rolling over either. And then we have The Sight by David Clement Davies. Again, did not get to this one, but I do want to roll over this one, so this will roll over into February. And then lastly, let's see, where is it here? We have Cress, which I did not get to. And so this one will roll over. This will be, I'm planning since February, starting on a Wednesday, I'm going to take the rest of these week to try to knock out these last 3 books. And then, I'll have the weekend, I'll have today, and just try to get as much of these knocked out as possible. Because, like I said, I'm participating in a few things, so then I really need to focus on my February reads. But yeah, I am going to roll over this one because I really do want to continue on with this series. So that is it as far as what I did not read. Like I said, some of them were rollovers and whatnot. So there's only 4 that I did not get off of my actual game TBR. I'm not going to be, I can't take a reward, which my reward, I just made tokens so I could use those at any point in time. It kind of lets me bypass one of the honey jar prompts if I just really not feeling it or can't find something. So I'm going to roll over those ones, but I don't get a reward. And then any of the ones that I did not finish that I'm not rolling over, I'm going to put that prompt back in the honey jar. And so for winter, it was, what was it? Zero to Hero, Hercules Zero to Hero. So that one will be going back in the honey jar prompt to hopefully pull it later on. But the other 3, since I am going to roll them over and finish them, I won't put those prompts back in, I decided. And I decided for my punishment is to roll over the books I didn't finish. I've decided I just need to at least do 1 book that I didn't finish to roll over, and I have to read that book before I can start on my next month TBR. So for that, it's going to officially be Cress, and then the other ones I'll probably just try to work in where I can. So that's kind of the deal there. So now let's go ahead and go through star ratings. So again, picture up here. First up, we have our 1 star, which for 1 star is if I DNF a book, it's considered 1 star. I never give any books I actually finish a 1 star. And honestly, I could have pushed through winners, and if I had, let me just grab it real quick. So I could have pushed through winners, and if I had, I probably would have given it a 2 star. I just didn't feel like pushing through it. But the writing wasn't so bad that I couldn't have finished it. I just chose not to. So yeah, but since it is a DNF, it goes in the 1 star slot. Then we have our 2 star, which there's only one that got a 2 star. Where is it? It's right here. And so for that, it was Divergent Mind by Janera Narenberg. I do still want to read more books like this. It's just this one wasn't quite as practical. It kind of got under my skin a little bit because she was more focused on like women that have been successful. And so why some of the stuff was very validating, it's like, yes, I can see that in myself. And some of the things were, women who aren't like really, really successful could maybe practically apply to their lives. It was more like this dream world, where and focusing on like society as a whole, where implementing things in business and such to help people that are neurodiverse instead of a practical look at the everyday woman, because it's really focused for women on either the spectrum or who are neurodivergent. It's really focusing on that, but it wasn't very practical at all. It's like, yeah, that's great in a perfect world, but we don't live in a perfect world. And it's great that people that are successful and are higher up are able to make these changes and such. But for people who are just working day to day trying to get by, it's not a perfect world, and those things don't apply. So that was a little bit frustrating for me, and that's why I only got 2 stars. And she also kept using Asperger's, which I know some places is considered a diagnosis, but it's like with all her research and such, you think she would at least noted that the community as a whole really does not like that term anymore, because it is negative. It's based on Hans Asperger, who was a Nazi and such, and so the community as a whole really doesn't like that term anymore. And like in the US, it's no longer part of the DSM-5. It's autism spectrum disorder. So that kind of got under my skin a little bit, but I know that's not the case everywhere. Like some places it still is a diagnosis. But yeah, the community as a whole really kind of frowns upon that. And I thought, well, with all your research and such, like, you would think you would have added that in or at least noted it. I did see a review that was upset because it didn't focus like on race and such, which I understand where that review is coming from, but that was not the point of this book. It was just looking as women as a whole, and she does mention, that people of color and such and other races, have other things that they battle as well. Like she does note it, but that's not the focus of the book. So to me, that was kind of mute point. And so yeah, but overall, like I appreciated it, but it was more like this dream world where society as a whole, you know, kind of changes to make it more inclusive for neurodivergent people, and it wasn't very practical to people that are just struggling to get by. So anyway, that was my only 2 star read. Then we had 3 star reads, the first of which was A Case of Two Cities by, I'm not going to say the name again because I already messed it up, but this one, so the author I think was born in Shanghai, but has lived in St. Louis since 1988. It's all in the back here. So there's that definitely that Chinese influence there, a very politically Chinese, which was a little hard for me because I don't know their political system. It wasn't familiar, and it's very much a detective novel, which are kind of hit and miss for me. My problem was kind of the way it wrapped up. It was very anticlimactic, and it just was kind of like, that's it. Like that's how it wrapped up. And so that was kind of where it fell short for me. Like I was already kind of struggling through it a little bit, and then the way it ended, I was just like, like what was that even? And so yeah, I did enjoy parts of it, but overall it wasn't like the most amazing book for me ever. And then we had next, so I'm going from bottom to top. I did put them in order. So next up we had Barbarian Alien, which again is the second book in the Ice Planet Barbarian series by Ruby Dixon. This one, so you have Liz, and a lot of the choices taken away from her. And it's not just from the alien, I forget his name, but it's not just from him, Rahush. It's not just him that's kind of taking the choice away from her, but then the group as a whole is taking the choices away from her, and that kind of turned me off a little bit. Um, but in the end, I still really enjoyed the writing style and everything like that. And I am still excited to continue the series. This one just wasn't my favorite, and it was kind of a turn off a little bit. But overall, I did enjoy it, and I am excited for the next one because that's another character I've been really, really excited for. So there was that one. That one only got 3 stars, and then the other one that got 3 stars here is The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. And I really, really enjoyed. So you have 3 different viewpoints in this one. You have Grace, Marie, and the head girl, who I forget what her name is. But you have Grace, Marie. Grace is like, I want to say current day, but it's 1946, so it's not actually current day. And then you have, let me see if I could find what the other one's name is. I can't remember. Eleanor. Eleanor's the other one. So you have kind of present day, but it's historical fiction. So 1946 is considered the present day in this book. But then you flash back to 1944 with Grace, or no, Marie. Grace is the current day one, the 1946 one. And then you go back to Marie's viewpoint and Eleanor's viewpoint. And I really felt like Grace did not need to be there. Like, it wasn't necessary. And I did not enjoy the parts with her viewpoint. Like, it really took me out of the story. But especially Marie, I loved the parts with her. Like, it really drew me in, and I really, really enjoyed it. Sorry, it was over there rolling around, messing stuff up. So yeah, I really enjoyed Marie's parts, and Eleanor really tied Marie's parts together. So I enjoyed her parts as well. But like I said, Grace just felt totally unnecessary, and I did not enjoy it. It really took me out of the story. I like the premise of how it starts with her, Grace, finding the suitcase with these pictures of these girls. I liked how that started, but then it should just kind of shifted from her over to the other girls. So I really did not enjoy Grace and the whole reasoning why she was so intent on finding these girls and finding out what happened to them really didn't make sense either. And also, it really focuses on 12, these 12 girls, but really you only have Marie and one of the other girls that play a significant part, and the rest are not really even present. So I don't really know why that focus on those 12 were there either. But it is based on, I was reading the author's note, and it really is based on like a real organization that sent the women into war. And so I thought that part was really, really interesting as well. So yeah, that got 3 stars. It was kind of top. And actually, I think I gave it officially like 3.5. I started using Storygraph, and you can do half stars, but I put it in the 3 star range for this purpose. So there was that. So that's those 3. Then we have our 4 star reads. So kind of bottom of the barrel for our 4 star reads is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. I don't know. I enjoyed the first one more than this for sure. I think I gave that one 4 stars as well, but I enjoyed it more than this one. This one, just the whole conflict, so you kind of have a love triangle, but the whole conflict with her um and the one love interest, it just kind of got annoying at some point. I did kind of like how it wrapped up in the end, but it was just like, okay, like this conflict, because you not only had like their conflict, but then you had, like the external conflict affecting them, and it just kind of got really annoying and really under my skin. Um, and so yeah, if it wasn't for that, like overall the story is fine, and there's a lot of aspects that I really, really did enjoy about it. It's definitely easy to read, but yeah, the whole like the love triangle thing was fine, like whatever, but the conflict with the one love interest was where I had the issue, and it honestly felt kind of unnecessary. Like she was doing too much. Like she was really trying to amp up that conflict, and it felt unnecessary. So that one's kind of bottom of the barrel of the 4 stars, but I did enjoy it, obviously. Then we have, where did I put it? Right here. Next up is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. So this one is so hyped. It's so hyped. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like reading hyped books, is because like they very rarely live up to the hype in my mind. Like, to me, if it's that hyped, like, it better be an automatic 5-star read. This one really drug in the middle for me, which I think you kind of have two camps of people that really like this. Like, the high fantasy camp that is familiar with like all the different things, which I'm not. And then like the cozy camp that is just enjoying it for the cozy vibes and such. Which again, like, it was fine, but I don't know, it just felt like it drug a little bit. Like, there is a conflict, like it's supposed to be high fantasy and low stakes or whatever, and there is a conflict there. But the middle just kind of drug for me, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And so it was enjoyable, it was fun to read, it was quick, but I don't think it lived up to quite the hype that it's been getting. Like, I did like it, I really did enjoy it, but it was just like, if it's gonna have that much hype, it needs to be 5 stars, like, all throughout, which it just wasn't for me. But it was cute. You have Viv, and she is tired of blood and killing and such, so she hangs up her battle axe and opens a coffee shop, which nobody knows what a coffee shop is, and so there's kind of a struggle with that, and she has these friends along the way, that she makes these friends rather, that end up kind of helping her out and such. So really, really cute, but not quite 5 stars for me. Is one I can see rereading in the future. Definitely gonna keep it on my shelves and such. But yeah, there's that. Then we have the next one, which ended up being um, City of the Beast by Isabel Allende. And this is the first in the Eagle and Jaguar series, which I had actually read the second one, which is Kingdom of the Golden Dragon. Really, really enjoyed that one. This one wasn't quite as good as that one for me, but I did still really enjoy it. And so you have Alexander, and he gets sent to stay with his grandmother. His mom is ill, and so they're dealing with that. And he gets sent to stay with his grandmother, who is a journalist for like let's see here, I don't remember, something geographic. And so anyway, so they're sent to the Amazon to try to find this beast, but there's kind of something more nefarious going on. And so yeah, you have them, and the reason why it wasn't quite 5 stars, like, I really, really enjoyed it, but again, I mean, it is young adult, but you have these kids, and they're, doing things that really don't make sense for kids to do. It seemed more plausible in the second one, like, it felt more plausible, than this one. Like, this one is like, why are the adults kind of putting them in this situation? And the, like, conflict and such and certain things that happen, it just didn't seem like the amount of drama and emotion that should have been there wasn't quite there. But I still really, really enjoyed it. I mean, they're exploring, they're searching for this beast, they're in the jungle, the atmosphere is fantastic. So yeah, overall I really, really enjoyed it. It didn't quite hit the spot like the second one that I read originally did. But I did really, really enjoy it, and I can't wait to read the third one in the series, which I'm sure I'm gonna love. So overall, pretty good. Just like I said, the emotions for what was going on was kind of a little bit um, dimmed, I guess. It didn't feel like quite real, and it didn't feel quite plausible in some points. Then we do have, where did I put it? Over here. Got books everywhere. So we have my buddy read, which was Rain Shadow Road by Lisa Kleypas. Again, I read this with B over at Mama Needs to Read Romance. I definitely really, really enjoyed this. It just, there was, the way the side characters were done was a little bit weird, like, maybe just for me, I don't know. We kinda talked about it, but, V didn't really say anything when I mentioned it, but yeah, it just felt like, you know how on a TV show when one of the main, like, supporting characters or whatever is maybe gone, or something like that, and they just kinda write it in like, "Oh, you know, they're off doing this." That's kinda how it felt like, but it's a book, so it's like, it wasn't really necessary, like, Mark, which is the other brother from the first book, it was like, you know, oh, he's in there cooking dinner, but you know, it just referenced him where he's not really involved, which was a little bit weird for me. But overall, I did really, really enjoy it. And you have Sam and Lucy, and Sam has a vineyard, uh, and they live in on this island off the coast of Washington. And so the series is about the three brothers, and this one in particular is about Sam. And it is a little bit of magical realism. So both Sam and Lucy kind of have this thing. There is something with the house that starts to get referenced here, which is really going to take off with the next book, which is Dream Lake. Um, it's gonna kind of take off in that book, which I'm so excited for because this house is kind of old and there's something with a ghost and such. So I can't wait for the next book, and it kind of starts to be referenced here, but not really. And it's kind of forced proximity a little bit. Something happens to Lucy, and her friends aren't able to really care for her, and she really doesn't have anybody else. So Sam ends up stepping in and kind of being her caretaker essentially. And so yeah, and I loved the ending. The ending made it for me because I think a lot of times, not a lot, but often in romance books, it's all about the love story, and not necessarily what may be best for the characters, which in this one I think it kind of, I don't want to give too much away, but I think it really honored, you know, the characters and their individual interest, without just focusing solely on the love portion. So yeah, I really did enjoy this one. Like I said, the writing in the beginning was just a little weird with the way the side characters were referenced. And then some of the other characters kind of, once their part was wrapped up, they kind of just dropped off the face of the book, which was a little weird. And again, I know they're not the main focus of the story, but it was done a little weird for me. But still really, really love this book. Still got a 4 star for me. So there's that one. And then we have Babel by R.F. Kuang, which I listened to. I'm so glad I did. There was no way I was going to get through it physically. Like, I already struggle with pronunciation and such. And when I'm reading, like, I hear in my head the words in my head. And so if I come across a word that I'm struggling with the pronunciation on, it really stops me up. And because there's a lot of translation here, I know I would have struggled if I read it physically. And the main narrator of the book, which is Chris Lu Kum Hoi, um, he's the main narrator. Fantastic. There's the one voice, like he did different voices for the different characters, and the different accents and such, which was amazing. But Anthony, like his voice for that character, I could not get enough of it. Like I absolutely loved his voice for that character. And I kept thinking like this voice, like it reminds me of something. And it kind of reminded me of like the voice for like an anime character or something. It was fantastic anyway. And I really liked they had the female narrator, which was Billy Fulford Brown. Um, would do like the little side notes and such to like expand on things a little bit further. So there was that separation, which again I really really appreciated. This is another one I don't like. Don't be mad at me, but I really don't think it lived up to the hype. Like the way I know there's been kind of a little bit of separation. Like Legend of Lattes, everybody just seems to love. Where Babel, it seems like the majority of the people think it's fantastic, amazing book. But there are a few people that struggled with it and didn't enjoy it so much, or DNF'd it and such. Which, like I said, if I had it physically, I would not have made it through it. So I'm really glad I did the audio on it. But my whole thing, I enjoyed the first part of the book. I really liked the language aspect. I really liked the magic that combined like translation and silver, like that whole aspect, kind of social commentary. My problem was kind of, I want to say around the midpoint, maybe a little later, because it's at the point where they kind of go to Canton, and then they're coming back. Something happens, which if you read it, you know, and just the whole way that conflict and the rest of the conflict played out just didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And like, I don't know, like, yes, they're young adults, like, early 20s and such, but they're intelligent characters, and some of the choices they made were not so intelligent. And it was like, and you have four of them, and they're like discussing it, but it's like none of you kind of thought to look ahead to what happens after you make this choice. So I really, really struggled with that, and then the whole way the rest of the conflict played out after that point. I don't know. And it would have been a 5-star read. Like up to that point, it was a 5-star read, and then after that, the way the conflict played out, like I said, it was just like they were making stupid choices, and I did not like it. And it did not fit. It did not seem to fit the characters for me. So that's why I ended up only getting a 4-star, is because of that fact. Then next we have my last 4-star, which was top of the barrel, and I don't know why, but it's the one that I squeezed in as the last haul, like the very last day of December. We went to the bigger city, and I picked up this book, and I wanted to read it right away. So it's The End of the World, My Love by Alla Gorbanova, and then again it's translated by Elena Alter. This one doesn't even actually come out. It comes out on the 7th of this month, so February. And yeah, this one, I don't even know how to explain it. I'll read you the synopsis, but it was not what I was expecting going in. So you have otherworldly, but yet it fits too. I don't know how to explain it. Otherworldly forces, dark phantasmagoria, the horrors of underground life, adolescence, and rebellion, myth and fairy tale, all swirl together in Alla Gorbanova's audacious and spectacular novel. Children, students, beggars, young poets, Alla Gorbanova's heroes and heroines live their lives intensely, experiencing the longing, joy, anticipation, and heartbreak of youth in 1990s St. Petersburg. But Gorbanova's interconnected episodes don't limit themselves to the realm of the everyday. As they move from harsh material realities to delirious dark fantasies, characters escape, decline, self-destruct, and transform. In vivid prose, she conjures a fragile and haunted society and renders it with a frank and uncompromising tenderness. A stunning work of fiction, It's the End of the World, My Love, is a compassionate, terrifying, and rewarding book from an undeniable literary voice. So, very, very dark. I actually did a video with this and my Sergei, and A Case of Two Cities. So if you're interested in me talking more about those, I'll leave it linked down below. But yeah, this is very, very dark. Definitely a lot of trigger warnings. Like, it really looks at the darker, more seedier, tragic side of humanity. And I don't know, it was so confusing. Like, it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't really have a plot, and you have different kind of episodes. Like, it's broken down into 4 parts, and it is connected. And the narrator, you never really know who the narrator is. Um, it does like, I don't even know. It does kind of connect, like there'll be references and you can connect it back to something you previously read in another part of the book. So there are these little connections, but it's all over the place and you never really know what's happening. And at one point you don't know if the narrator potentially died and this is just kind of like the afterlife, or if she's still alive and she's kind of imagining what her life could be. Like, you just have no clue what's going on whatsoever, but it does get very, very, very dark at some point. Like, at one point, it's adult films, but there's murder and different age ranges involved in that. There's substance abuse, drinking, inappropriate relationships, with young women and older people, kind of intrusive thoughts and things like that regarding being assaulted. And it is very, very dark. Very, very, very dark. But I don't know. I just something about it, like, it felt honest. Like, there is that dark side to humanity. There is that tragicness of substance abuse and such. And so I just ended up really enjoying this, even though like was very confusing and it was dark. I don't know. It's 4 stars, but yeah, it's still really sticking with me. So then we have our 5 star reads. So there's 7 of these. So the bottom of the barrel for 5 star reads, which I'm really kind of surprised because I loved the first one so much. This one just wasn't quite it for me, and it's 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater. So these can be read separate, like they're more companion novels, because this is book 2 in the Regency fairy tales. And then this one, you're following Effie, and she's actually a maid in a house, and she's fallen in love with the dashing Mr. Benedict Ashbrook. But she's a housemaid, so she can't marry a gentleman. And enter fairy Lord Blackthorn, sorry, and he wants to help her. But of course, fairies can't give anything away for free, so she has to sew 10,000 stitches into his favorite jacket. And then there's also kind of she has to get Mr. Ashbrook to fall in love and marry her within a certain time frame as well. And so you kind of have this fairy deal, but it's also Regency era. And this one, still really, really good. Like I said, it did get 5 stars. It just wasn't quite as good as the first one, which is Half a Soul. But yeah, I really, really did enjoy this one. And just a good time. Like this is kind of what I was expecting from Legends and Lattes, that I didn't get, and I think, like I said, it's because I'm just high fantasy is kind of out of my realm, and range. So I think that's kind of what ruined Legends and Lattes for me a little bit, and then it drug it a little bit in the middle. But this is kind of those vibes for sure. So there's that one. Then the one I just finished this morning is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This one almost got 4 stars. I'm not gonna lie. I did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed Scythe, which is the first one in the series. But part of it, I was kind of going back and forth, and part of it was the characters. So I did not like, there's the one character that I did not like. And the Thunderhead, it's like, so you have like these little notes, and in the first one it was like from the journals of the different sites. In this one it's kind of the Thunderhead and his thoughts, or their thoughts, I guess. And I don't know, you have this AI, and there's something kind of off-putting about it, but I think it was kind of meant to be that way. And so you can't fault the author when he was doing what he meant to do, potentially. Like, I don't know. But that's kind of like, it felt like it was on purpose. So they were kind of off-putting, and then, like I said, there was a lot happening in this book. A lot happening, and so that kind of made it less enjoyable for me. But it all comes together in the ending, and the ending is fantastic. And I do think I remember feeling a little bit this way when I was reading Scythe. Like, it kind of felt a little bit like, okay, what's happening? And then the ending just like pulled everything together for me. The same thing happened here. And so I did enjoy it. Like I said, not quite as much as Scythe, but it definitely still got 5 stars in the end. So it kind of went back and forth, but based on why I was going to give it 4 stars, it's like, nah, it's definitely 5 stars. So there's that one. Then we have Sabriel by Garth, which this is my first time reading this. This is YA, and pretty popular. I do, hear it mentioned fairly regularly. And yeah, this one, like, I've been missing out all this time because I think it was originally published in like 90 something. I got this. Let's see. Yeah, 95. It was published in 95. So a little bit before, like, I would have been a little bit young when this came out because it's more young adult. But I never did end up reading this when I was growing up, and I just loved it. Like, you have this necromancy element, but Sabriel and her father instead of raising the dead, they bind the dead. So it's kind of necromancy in reverse. It's really interesting. And death is like a place, not necessarily like a person, which I really like death as a character and like, as a sentient being. But in this place, death is a place, and yeah, I don't know. The conflict was really good. I just really really enjoyed this all around. I actually went down, wasn't planning any more books, but after reading this, I was like, I at least need the next two because I think there's 6 books in this series. So I went down to the local used bookstore. They had the third one, so I had to order the second one, which just arrived yesterday. And I already want to try to squeeze it into my February TBR, which there's no way. But I'm definitely going to try to get it on my March TBR because, yeah, really, really I gotta see where this, which I know this one's kind of like self-contained, like the story wraps up, and the next one is about a different character, so it's more like I said, again, like kind of more like a companion. But I'm really really excited to read it as well. Then we have the 2 books from Nora Roberts, so Dance of the Gods and Valley of Silence, which these were rereads for me. And these are hard, like definitely still 5 stars, especially the third one's my favorite because it follows my favorite characters, because you have Kian and he's a vampire. And so his kind of struggle, but he's fighting against the other vampires on the side of good. So basically, this is the Circle trilogy, which I read the first one back in October, um, reread it, and you have the Circle of 6. So you have Hoyt as a sorcerer, Glenn as a witch. You have Blair, who's the warrior. Larkin is the shapeshifter, and then Larkin and Blair are the main focus of Dance of the Gods. And then you have Kian, which is Hoyt's twin brother but is a vampire, and Mora, who is a scholar. And also queen of her little world. And so it kind of takes place between worlds and between time. Um, and it's just the atmosphere is so good. The only reason I really struggle with these ones is because it is definitely a little bit darker. Like the vampire, some of the things that happen with her are very, it doesn't go into graphic detail, but she does have her child, which is a 6-year-old boy that she turned, and some of the things she does with him, um, are very dark, and like I said, doesn't really go into graphic detail, but it is a little bit heavier of a read. But I love the atmosphere of these books, and Kian, like, he's my favorite character, because he's a vampire and he's really struggling because he's not human, and he does have those impulses, but yet he chooses to fight on the side of good, and he kind of misses that humanity and such, but he knows, even if they win, he'll never have what they're fighting for. So anyway, I absolutely love this trilogy. The first one is more of a 4-star read for me, but these two are definitely 5 stars, for sure. So and part of that is, they come from modern day Ireland and they go to the land of Gael, which is where Mora and Larkin are from. And Mora is the queen of that land, and that's where the big battle's gonna take place and such. It's like so good, but definitely a little bit heavier, which is why, like, as much as I love them, I don't reread them a whole lot. Then let's see here. We have next is My Sergei, which is a love story by Ekaterina Gordieva and with E.M. Swift. So this is Ekaterina Gordieva and Sergei Grinkov were a figure skating pair from late 80s, early 90s. My mom's favorite figure skating pair. I originally read this as a teen because my mom was like, "You need to read this book." So I read it as a teen, and then I reread it last year, and so I wanted to reread it again in December, but wasn't able to get it, so I reread it, January. And it's just, them together, and her story with Sergey from friends and figure skating partners to friends to eventually lovers and marrying and such, and then losing him. And it's so heartbreaking, but it's also what strikes me. It's not just a love story. Like, I know, like, looking at it from the surface, it is, but it's really her journey as a woman because Sergei was just a part of that journey every step of the way. And then it's eventually, they fell in love and got married and had a baby and such. But it's really her journey into becoming a woman for sure. And it's beautiful, but always makes me cry every time, because she loses him and she takes you kind of through that emotion. So very, very beautiful. And this one actually blew up over the last couple months, like reading this. Like, this video has been getting all kinds of views and such, and I don't know, like, I went to look, and somebody did, like, a blog post, like, where are they now? So where is the Katerina Gordieva now? And I don't know if that's why, but it's just been getting a lot of views, which I found interesting, so it definitely was like, I need to reread that again anyway. And so yeah, this one is kind of top of the list there. And lastly, the top spot is The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy by Megan Bannen. I knew I was going to love this one, and I definitely did. So you have Mercy Birdsall, who is trying to keep Birdsall and Son, which she's the daughter, but her brother really kind of struggles. And so she's been keeping Birdsall and Son running, and she wants to keep doors open, and there's kind of conflict, like there's the little guy, and there's this bigger thing. And then you also have Hart Ralston, who is a marshal, and he patrols the strange and magical wilds of Tanria. And you have, I forget what they're called already, but they're basically zombies. So the spirits inhabit the bodies of the dead, but the bodies still kind of um decimate, I guess. That's not quite the word I'm looking for. But anyway, they still kind of do their thing. And so eventually they have to kill again to find a new body and whatnot. But basically, this land was where the old gods were put, so it kind of has like this theology thing. So you have old gods and new gods, um, kind of theology slash mythology, and so yeah. But there's been an uprise of these bodies being taken over, dead bodies being taken over, and such. And so yeah, they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and it's enemies to lover. Like, Hart and Mercy do not like each other. Like, every time he has to bring a body, there's all this tension and such. Well, Hart starts writing to this anonymous person he doesn't know, and it ends up being Mercy. And so they kind of have been sharing their feelings with one and another without realizing that that's what they're doing. So really, really good. There's kind of this cozy aspect to it, but also, this a little bit heavier, and the conflict is really great and everything like that. So I absolutely adored this book, and I really look forward to reading it again at some point. So that is all the star ratings. Now, as far as my stats go, so for audio hours, I only read the one or listened to the one audiobook, but that was 21 hours and 46 minutes. And then page count is 5,361 pages of what I read physically. I read 15 fiction and 2 nonfiction. 16 were physical, 1 audio. Genres, so these kind of overlap. Like, some of them are in multiple, like this one is in fantasy and romance and LGBTQ plus. So there's, they overlap a little bit. But 9 of them fit the genre of fantasy, 6 fit the genre of romance. There were 3 young adult, 3 literary, 3 historical fiction, 2 science fiction, 1 dystopian, 1 LGBTQ plus, 1 sports, 1 psychology, 1 mystery, 1 memoir, 1 crime, 1 contemporary, and 1 biography. My top moods were adventurous, emotional, and mysterious, which was really fun. And then I am doing my top 3 as well. I know this video is getting really, really long, so sorry, but this is kind of the last little thing. So the top 3 doesn't necessarily translate to my top star ratings. It's just the book that kind of stood out the most to me. So number 1 is definitely It's the End of the World, My Love by I'm not gonna pull it out, but by Alla Gorbanova, translated by Elena Alter. And the reasons why, it was kind of an honest look at the darker, seedier side of humanity. I love the folklore aspect to it. It was confusing, but those little connections between each part, really made it for me. And I've really been enjoying Russian literature lately. Then number two, we have Babel by Ara Kwong, which was narrated by Chris Liu Kum Hoi and Billy Fulford Brown. The language and translation aspect of it, it would say it and kind of the origins and talk about it a little bit. Love that. I love the magic system combining both the language and translation and the silver and kind of that resource aspect of it. And then we also had that social commentary there, and the narrators were chef's kiss. Again, probably wouldn't have made the spot if I had physically read it, and I honestly would have probably DNF'd it if I had physically read it. But listening to it, the narrators really, really made it for me as well. Third, it was a 3-star, so those were both 4 stars. Third is the 3-star, which is The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff. And I don't know, it was inspired by the real organization from the World War II, which I love books that are inspired by either real events or real aspects from history. Like, I really, really like that. It was complete fiction. Like, the women there weren't real or anything, and the things that took place weren't real, but it was inspired by a real organization, which I loved. Really heavily woman focused, which again, just really enjoyed. You don't always get that in the war, in war books and such. And so I really liked that aspect of it as well. It was a very interesting premise with her finding the suitcase and such. So I wish the execution had gone a little bit differently, but I did like the premise of her finding the suitcase with these women in it. And then I was left wanting to learn more, like either read something more that was inspired by the women going to war, or even just research a little bit more, maybe read a nonfiction to learn a little bit more. It just left me wanting more, which I really, really liked. So that is it as far as January goes. Like I said, I have 4 books I'm rolling over and a stack that I did not even get to, unfortunately. But I did read a lot, which is fantastic. So, excuse me, I'm really, really, really happy with what I got done. How many books did I end up reading? Can't remember. Let's see here. So I did end up reading, so that's 7 plus 6 is 13, 16, 17. 17 books. It's not bad. And then I did do a haul page as well, which I'll insert a closer picture. I'm not doing very good on that goal. So I did end up hauling a total of 57 books. Some of them are for reads I'm doing in February, because I really do like to have a physical books, and I am trying to be participating in more things. Some are series that I was trying to collect, or authors I'm really interested in, which my whole thing this year is to be more mindful of what I'm picking up. But I do have a bit that I was at the thrift store and they caught my attention. So that's not really being mindful, but I'll hopefully do better going forward. We shall see. But yeah, that is it for my January wrap up. I know this video was really, really long, but I really kind of am enjoying it, and I wanted to share my journal with you guys. And there was a lot of books to talk about as well. But let me know if you've read any of these, or if you're interested in any of them after I talked about them a little bit. If you're interested in reading them, any of them, and what your favorite book from January was, either the most impactful or just the highest rated one that you read that you just enjoyed the most. Let me know down in the comments below. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.